a particularly easy matchup for the Seismic Assault decks, mostly because Seismic Assault does deal damage in increments of 2, which means that you will have to have 4 lands, which is, characteristically less than the amount from Life from the Loam. So, I don't know, it's not going to be a super clean answer the same way that you would like with, Prismatic Ending, Leyline Binding, Solitude, Ephemerate, etc. But yeah, I really do think that this matchup is going to end up being dependent on how fast out of the gates the Rhinos deck is going to be. And it looks like we've got life totals coming up on the screen, and we will be starting in just a minute.
They're finna start.
Awesome. Excuse me. So players are getting set up right now. And it looks like we've got a message from Victor Suarez. Oh, it's going away. This is so sad. It looks like we've got an opening 7 coming into the grip. I'm seeing a lot of interaction out of Victor on Rhinos. It looks like it's too much interaction. That is going to be a mulligan. And yeah, that's just characteristic of Rhinos. Mulls a lot. Can mulligan pretty well. You only need a couple cards to really, put 10 power on board. And it looks like Colin on Assault Loam is going to be keeping 7 cards. Unsure who is on the play. I was not paying attention. But, with Gemstone Caverns in the mix, it could be anyone at this point. And it looks like we've got a new 7 coming in from Victor. I'm seeing a Crashing Footfalls in the hand, 2 Crashing Footfalls in the hand. It looks like he's going to be keeping and bottoming one of the Footfalls. Looks like we've got a very interactive hand with a ton of shocks, but not many Cascaders going on in this hand. And unfortunately, it looks like Colin on Loam is going to be hiding his hand for the current time. It looks like Loam is going to be on the play, starting off with a Halfling. So I believe Victor's keep is going to line up pretty well because of that. He's got the turn 1 shock, turn 2 ice your land. Hopefully, looks like he's going to be opting out of that play. Instead, he's going to be going for the suspended Crashing Footfalls, which, in my opinion, is a bit risky of a play. This deck does, need a lot of mana, and so I'm wondering if that is the correct line, but seeing the contents of Victor's hand, I think it does make sense.
Just a quick note for the stream to you guys. I am not able to see their phone that's tracking their life. I think Victor's using a different app than the typical companion app. So tracking life is going to be a little troll right now, but just enjoy the show while y'all are here. Sorry about that. My bad, Nathan.
No worries. And yeah, honestly, the life is not going to be a huge factor. They will be dealing damage in chunks of 8, usually. But it looks like we've got a second Delighted Halfling, and then this is a tapped Forgotten Cave, which is, in my opinion, a sign of weakness out of the Loam deck. That's usually something you want to have in hand at all times, which is making me wonder what the contents of Colin's hand are. My guess is going to be a 1-ring that he really wants to get out on the board. And it looks like we're going to be getting a Surveil off of the Thundering Falls, one of the new additions to Rhinos. Rhinos has really been able to take good advantage of this new set. I think it's the clearest winner out of these Surveil lands. Maybe Goryo's Vengeance has a bit more on it. And that was a main phase Surveil, so I guess we'll see. And again, Victor not respecting these Halflings at all. You still see those 2 different burn spells in the hand. And it looks like Colin's going to be coming in one more time with the Elves. And going to be shocking in, which means he's got a 3-drop. My guess is a Slogurk. Nope, it's a Seismic Assault. So, engine not quite online. The Assault is there, but no way to really, take advantage, pull ahead. Looks like Victor is going to make his 3rd land drop. He's got the Rhinos on to suspend. And Colin is untapping with 5 mana, so if he is able to take advantage of the mana, this could definitely turn in favor of Colin, but we'll have to see. Looks like we've got 2. That is an Inti, and this is going to be pretty good in combination with the Seismic Assault. So let's see if he can pull ahead with this. And we're gonna get a shock, and then we're gonna get off the top from Inti a Ragavan going into exile. We're gonna get another shock and another card into exile. And it looks like all we can really do at this point is cast or dash the Ragavan. Pretty big prospect, though. It looks like he's going to be tapping for uncounterable mana to be dashing this Ragavan. And it looks like the patience from Victor is going to pay off for this. It doesn't seem like he's got a ton. It doesn't seem like Colin's got a ton of ways to really back this up. Unfortunately, though, he did. Ooh, okay, right. Looks like we've got the violent outburst out of the hand. So, yeah, it's not even for interaction. We are just putting 4/4s on board. There's the crashing footfalls. So looks like we are going to be taking the block. Then we will probably be resolving this Inti trigger, unless it's already resolved and Colin chose not to discard a card, which I wouldn't be super surprised about. And it looks like he does not. So we've got the footfalls coming down to 1 suspend, so we're going to get 2 more Rhinos next turn. Victor is going to be shocking in a breeding pool, which means that is 4 mana, and then chunking in with 8. And it looks like we see at least one subtlety out of Victor. That might be the second one, or it might be the second Fire Ice. I believe it's the second Fire Ice. All right, Colin tapping for 2, 3, 4, and there's the 1 ring. So let's see if Victor's got anything to say about that, and the answer is no. Handful of removal. Colin is going to go ahead and draw a card right off the bat. And it looks like on the end step we've got a ice on the Inti. Victor going for that redraw. It looks like he does find the Tishana's Tidebinder. He has used every piece of mana so far, so that isn't really going to be a bit of a miss on previous turns where he could have used the ice to dig a little deeper. But he should be able to snipe this 1 ring on the next activation. And Victor's going to be untapping, casting another Crashing Footfalls, so 2 more Rhinos are going to be entering the battlefield. And the draw for the turn is another Subtlety. So we've got double Fire Ice, double Subtlety, and a Dead Gone. Notably, 2 of those cards have been there since the opener, maybe even 3 of them. I think that's Subtlety. Oh, sorry, that is a Tishana's Tidebinder, not a Subtlety in hand. And we're going to get I believe that is a Surveil land coming into the battlefield. And it looks like Colin is putting that one to the graveyard. Just need to find any other action. 2 damage is not the best thing in the world. Upkeep trigger, Colin is going to be losing a life and then drawing for turn. Let's see how disciplined he plays with this 1 ring. I'm not sure if Tishana's Tidebinder is on his radar or not. Looks like he is going to be starting by activating it. Going up to 2. Victor is going to be saying okay. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is another 1 ring. Victor's going to say okay to that one, and it looks like we've got the Tidebinder on the 1 ring. Great discipline from Victor. Let you draw 2 cards, but that's not what matters. What matters is putting the damage on the board, stopping you from that protection spell. And even though the Seismic Assault is in play, killing the Tidebinder doesn't matter anymore. That enters the battlefield trigger is all that really does matter. So, not really sure what life totals are at the moment, but we are probably going to be seeing a concession from Colin pretty soon. 16 power is a lot, especially when it tramples. And we know that 8 came in the last turn, so this is going to be minimum lethal. And it looks like we will be shocking the Tidebinder, exiling a Ragavan off of the Inti. And that's only 1 toughness as a blocker, so I'm not really sure Colin is going to be able to pull out of this one.
Whoa.
All right, looks like Sam Alexander is going to be joining us in the booth.
Boo.
Boo!
We hate that guy.
You're watching Rhinos right now beat up Temur Loam.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
it
That's
was
not what I want to happen.
Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate. It was a turn 1 suspend, crashing footfalls into turn 3 end step, violent outburst into,
Oh, lovely. 2 rhinos.
well, 2 Rhinos into 2 Rhinos.
Well,
It was a bit rough. But yeah, the Loam deck wasn't able to get an actual engine on, but it was able to play 2 One Rings in a row. We did see some pretty good discipline out of Victor, where he held the Tidebinder on the first One Ring, drawing the cards because he was tapped out when it came down the first time, and just waited for the second one to come down because he knew all that matters at that point is making sure that trigger doesn't resolve as it enters.
Yep.
And yeah,
ooh, so Colin's the one on Loam.
correct.
Cool.
Yeah.
I would love to see a deck list out of him.
Absolutely. We are currently not updated on life totals. It looks like we don't have a phone that's on camera. So
We did. It's
Okay,
just
good.
when I was positioning the camera today, chat. I usually leave it so there's like a lot of headspace at the top from your perspective, so I could have a phone there and I could watch it on another screen. But I had it nice and perfectly centered today for some reason, so
Do you want
I
to fix
can't
it?
see. Well, that
unfortunately.
requires me to pull the tripod and recenter it all. That the show's already going.
Right.
I'll try to think
Maybe
of
we'll
something
do it
on
during
the
the
fly.
break or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this will be a quick one.
Yeah. So what do you think of the format?
I think the format's fine right now. I think Rhinos is heavily represented, obviously. It's at
Yeah.
like 17 to 20% at like every event and in the meta right now. I don't think Rhinos is really a problem, if I'm being honest. I think it is just a good deck, very annoying. I think it is very equivalent to how Delver has been in Legacy for the longest time.
I agree. It's I mean, the frustrating part of any like tempo deck is that you're getting tempoed out of the game, and that can be frustrating. And,
Yep.
Like any like we know how Delver into Days into Force feels.
Yeah, well, hopefully not a lot of you know how that feels because it is not something I would wish on you guys. But
Oh man, I love that.
well, I mean, I love being on the other side of that. It's my favorite. That's why I play it. But yeah, I do think the format is in a weird place. In my opinion, I'm not sure if you heard that there's going to be a BNR announcement this weekend.
I just heard that about 10 minutes ago.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm excited. What you have any predictions?
I'm not sure if Modern is going to be affected or not. I didn't actually hear any of the details. Like, I don't know where this was announced. I don't know if they made a
Is it a-
statement or anything like that.
Is it a pre-scheduled one?
I don't believe it was pre-scheduled because usually the pre-scheduled ones are like a week in advance, maybe a longer.
Okay. So typically they plan these quarterly, right?
I am honestly not sure. They have changed so many times. I
Yeah.
just don't commit.
If anybody
things to
knows,
memory
feel
anymore.
free to throw it in the chat.
What RCQs?
No,
No. Banned and restricted announcements.
scheduled announcements, whether or not they're how far ahead they're scheduled. I know that sometimes they'll just be like, hey, we're choosing not to do one this time because everything seems fine.
Yep.
But
But I don't have the details, and my guess, if you told me there was a banned and restricted announcement, and you didn't actually tell me what format it would be, my guess would be that Modern would see no changes right now. Modern Horizons 3,
is coming.
yeah, and I think the format is in a fine place right now.
Yeah, like nothing like while Rhinos is obviously like I don't want to say overrepresented because I think it's like the quality of the deck is definitely like represented like
Yeah.
very well, but I think the I mean you're always going to see the upper echelon, the tier 1 of any format is pretty much always going to be kind of a rock paper scissors sort of deck,
Yeah.
or a sort of rotation.
Kind of disagree with that, I think. I think right now we're actually in a pretty healthy spot where we've
Yeah.
got the scam Murktide kind of corner, and then Rhinos is kind of fine into that, and also into the decks that in theory should be good against it. Really, the only rock paper scissors is just like, did you see Living End? If you didn't see Living End, then Rhinos is just a 50-50 in most matchups.
That's not necessarily what I mean. I don't mean like kind of a complete wash. I just mean like, you know, there's always going to be the upper echelon of any like sort of tier
Right,
that are
right.
predominantly focused, and you know they tend to prey on one of the other two. And
Right,
you know,
right.
not that it's like, you know, you just
Literal
get
rock
stomped.
paper scissors,
Exactly.
the same way that Modern has been for a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
no. Very rarely are we getting like the two ships passing that
Yeah.
you know of days past.
Yep.
I do think that the lost my train of thought.
Uh-oh.
I was excited about
Subtlety on
6.
Ren and 6.
yeah.
It looks like we are going to get an unmolested Ragavan out of Colin, and going for that turn 2 Ren and 6 to pick up the land. Looks like we do have the land. It is going to be a Surveil land, but we still have this Ragavan on board, and it looks like
We're gonna
Victor...
bin another one.
Oh, pretty good. These Surveil lands have been sick.
I have yet to play one.
That is all on you, bud.
You're right. I need to get them.
All right.
I think the current breakdown on like viability of decks in the format is going to be, obviously Rhinos is going to be the top spot.
Yep.
I think that Yogg is pretty affirmedly a second place deck, while both of them are in like the tier 0.
Right.
You know, and then tier 1 is wide. Like we have Creativity, which obviously is your deck of choice.
Creativity's not tier 1 right now.
No,
It's
and it's,
firmly tier 2.
yeah,
Tier
but
2.5 even.
but it preys on Rhinos.
No, that is not true.
What is so you did very well in your showing at Denver.
Right. But that was more of just like gameplay specific things. Like I feel like I did get lucky in some of my matches. I feel like I played well in some of my matches. On average, Rhinos is a negative matchup. They're
Okay.
It's like the mirror, but they're better and they can do it at instant speed. You know, they're faster, I guess is the better thing. Like yours beats theirs, but theirs can go at instant speed with force backup.
Absolutely.
And all of their interaction sans like some of the shock effects are pretty good against you.
Okay. So like what is the best meta for your deck
For my deck,
for creativity?
is a deck with Murktide and Scam and every fair deck under the sun that doesn't have the one ring in it. Think Jund is usually the way that I explain the deck. It doesn't matter, like, Archon of Cruelty is not a combo card, it is a value card. You are casting a 4 or 5 mana, I draw 2, you discard 2, and then have an inevitable whatever. But
yeah,
like,
it's Karn. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Karn ultimately like
yeah,
most of the
doesn't
time
matter.
it wins the game, but
Right.
you know, casting it doesn't end the game. You know,
Right,
it
right.
just happens to be the big threat that we cheat into play. And I think it's probably a good analogy. I would say that, like, you know, to compare Tron to the creativity deck, obviously they pilot a little bit differently, but like,
Well,
you know,
in my
ultimately, you're a
opinion-
control deck with a
Right.
Yeah.
I think Jund and Creativity, or Jund and Tron are also the same deck. That's a bit of a spicy take, but I think it's true. I think they're both just the same mid-range deck, and they always have been, and people who say otherwise have been fooling themselves. Looks like we are going to be getting a 1 ring out of Colin Smith to try and stabilize
you
here, though.
just said that and then just
don't worry
washed
about
over it. Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I would argue that any deck that plays board wipes can't be mid range. That might be a spicier take, but I think that makes it a control deck.
Yeah, I guess that might... that's not true. Like, post-board, a lot of decks will play board wipes just because.
Yes, but I mean, like how many board wipes is Tron playing?
Tron is playing the 4 Oblivion Stones, or 7 if you consider 3 in the main, and then 1 in the sideboard for Karn.
Yeah, and then you're also playing Ugin. You're playing...
Right, it's 2 Ugin right now, I believe.
It's
Looks
been
like
2 Ugin for many years now. But yeah, so it's like Ugin is definitely part of it, and then what's the other... there's another board. All is Dust is also, like, shows up sparingly, too.
Yep. That one's on its way out right now, because the 1 ring does not get sacrificed
Right.
there. Yeah.
Right. I haven't played Tron since that card's been out, so...
Yeah, it's a... don't. Just please
The
don't.
deck,
don't
I mean, the
wanna see
deck's
it.
good.
Yeah, I know the deck's good.
And that's kind of the kind of illusion that I was drawing to with the tier 1. And I think Tron's, like, affirmatively in tier 1. I think Burn is surprisingly good
Where?
in
Just
the
in
meta.
the current meta?
Yeah, in the meta.
Rhinos is a bit of a sketchy matchup, is the biggest issue.
Yeah.
And so...
I mean, I feel like Rhinos just makes decks that need to be on curve sketchy matchups because
Yeah,
because
100%.
the nature of tempo, right?
Yep.
Um,
It really just puts the, really makes you need to cut your teeth in a matchup.
Mhm.
You don't have time to dick around in this meta game, really. Like between Titan and Rhinos and whatever, you can't just do nothing. It has to be the One Ring if you're spending 4 mana. You have to be doing something impactful every
Yeah.
single time you play a spell.
yeah,
Um,
that's why like you know
and it looks like
it's
we've got a reader coming out from
this
Colin
is
Smith.
Slogurk.
That is Slogurk the Overslime,
Yeah,
I believe.
recognize that art. Can you pull up Slogurk the Overslime? it's Loam adjacent. Um,
This creature notably can be a lot larger than Rhinos very quickly.
yeah, I
But
believe it's a 2/2, and then it gets a counter, right?
it gets a counter every time a land leaves the battlefield.
So it's a
believe.
3/3, and then every time I believe it's here, we'll just read it. So whenever a land card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, put a 1/1 counter on Slogurk. You can remove 3+1/+1 counters from it to bounce it to your hand. And then when it leaves the battlefield, you may return up to 3 land cards from your graveyard to your hand, just like Loam. So it's slow.
What? Looks like we are going to be getting a Loam Mill. Yeah,
That's so sweet.
two Loam Dredges off of the One Ring. That is actually awesome.
Brutal.
And we've got a dead on the stack.
For, I assume, Inti, right?
Unsure.
Because Inti only has
yeah,
one counter.
no. It's just going to be a bounce, actually.
Oh, okay. Bouncing Slogurk so that we don't get all the triggers, so that Colin can't do it again.
Right. Not that it really matters, but more he's just looking to make sure that the Slogurk, this could have been done at any point.
Yeah, the bounce just to make sure Colin can't get extra counters and make a big blocker for these Rhinos.
Right.
I think is definitely a kind of a heads up play from Victor here. With Colin only at 6, like he's in trouble.
Yeah, 100%. This is definitely a play of desperation.
Discard a card to Inti, land, flip
Land, Forgotten Cave.
Forgotten Cave, which is the cycling red land for a single red mana.
And Victor says thumbs up, and it looks like we've got smiles on both faces. We know what that means. The game's over.
Ice cream?
That's what it means.
No.
2 ice cream. Unless
Colin.
Yeah, Colin can go ritual One Ring. I don't really
Are we
think there's
playing
gonna be
rituals in it? Alrighty.
No, not
We're
even close.
scooping them up, the knuckles.
And yeah, that was a bit of a quick one.
Unfortunate that
Yeah.
that such a spicy deck is getting punished by the most efficient deck in the format.
Yeah, well, I mean,
is
that
the
is
tradition.
that is definitely what's going on here. When I mentioned that you don't really have time to turtle, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, playing Slogurk and playing Life from the Loam and playing Seismic Assault is a very slow, grindy, don't do anything for several turns in a row, try to get a setup built. The same way that Blutron is trying to just, assemble a machine is the best way I've heard it described. But, this deck doesn't really care what you're doing in 2 turns, like, die.
Yeah, I mean,
Get sideways.
that's I guess kind of what you were alluding to earlier, that there's a if you are sort of building something